Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of season 3 of the unofficially official.
You should know
the other way around.
It's
the other way around.
It's officially unofficial, by the way.
No, I did the whole thing backwards. I was trying to do everything
I see.
backwards.
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry, Lexi.
It's all right. I got stuck at the LJL where I was like,
You got stuck at the start.
I was like, how does this start? So I'm just
Unofficial,
like,
How long have you been doing this for?
Yes. But I wanted to know exactly what it said. We got MaskedSwan here, LJL Unofficial Podcast, episode 8, season 3. We've done a bunch of these. We're almost at 100. I'm going to keep saying that until we actually do the cosplay episode, because that's content, ladies and gentlemen. As always, joined by the man on the middle, even though this new overlay that we've had doesn't really facilitate this, but I'm going to keep saying it. Initialise, Sam, Initialise, have good. So, welcome. How are you, buddy?
I am doing all right. I'm mid grind. I've got lots going on today, lots of meetings, lots of things to write. I'm kind of glad to be doing something kind of fun like a podcast right now. So doing okay. Glad I got my cup of tea, which discussing with Oak off air that he's only recently found what tea even is, and has only really recently worked out that caffeine, makes you alert, which is quite the revelation, really, now, isn't it, Oak?
On the contrary, I think he was like, it doesn't do anything, mate. It
doesn't only make you a bit alert.
It doesn't. I feel like caffeine's like a big scam.
This is important.
Big caffeine is lying to the people.
Well, that other voice you are hearing, ladies and gentlemen, is CasterOak, a long-time caster now on the LJL for us. He's been doing a lot. If you've been watching our coverage of the LJL, this split of 2022. So, first time getting you on. Not the first time me asking, but first time that we're able to get you on. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Yeah, you're right. You've tried to get me on. I've told you that I would join, and then I cancelled on you at like 1 o'clock in the morning. That was a fun one. No, it's nice to be here. I'm doing good. I'm chilling.
This or for the broadcast?
Sorry?
Was that for the podcast or was that for the broadcast?
For the podcast.
All right. Well.
The broadcast, I think there was only one time where I just didn't turn up. Anyway, yes. I'm doing good. I'm doing a lot of casting at the moment, actually.
That's the tea.
Just like he sits there, just like drinks that. There you go.
I've turned up to every other one though. That's a smashing success because I don't sleep very well. So
he only turns up to every other broadcast. He means he misses the other one. Are we throwing him under the bus? Yes, we are.
With that said, Oak, sir, how's your week been? How have you been? Have you got anything else you've been up to in more of a generalization? And play any games of interest?
Oh, well, I know because I see this man here constantly playing it. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, and that game is very, very good. I'm doing
the Elden Ring podcast for the next 5 minutes.
Pretty much. I've been doing a dex build, and I figured out the fantastic ability of all the different dexterity weapons because there's so much cheese in the game. I think I've beaten more bosses with cheese than by actually like the Dark Souls stereo, like dodging all the moves and slapping them.
I feel that's been true of all Dark Souls games. People just get salty when you do other stuff. Like, what is your current cheese of choice?
I can't. Well, I think I'll say my most notable cheese instead, which was down south in Limgrave in the first area you unlock. There's a lion boss you encounter, and I won't say anything more than that. I figured out that I wasn't able to beat him with my current leveling situation. So instead of going and leveling somewhere, I was like, that's stupid. I figured out he staggers quite easily.
He does.
So you get there's a weapon, a torch that you can pick up quite early on in the game where it consumes your FP to blow 2 waves of fire back and forth. And I realized that combined with the wolf summon that you get just constantly staggers the boss. And so I just breathed fire on him, rolled away, did it again until he died. And
that's
very
satisfying.
Really
strong. That's
very didn't interact with him at all. It was really fun.
I've got the joy of going sword and staff. So I've got Moon Veil and a really strong staff.
Yeah.
And it's a bit silly the amount of damage I can do. It's like I'd like to add something more to that, but it's a bit silly.
No, I think having the blessings of having to fight against some people online, you realize that there are some builds that the game's not. I wouldn't say it's balanced. There's a load of crazy stuff,
and I found out more recently. There's certain weapons which have been like really busted for PvP. So obviously there's the Rivers of Blood is a current one. Moonveil was very strong. I don't know whether they've nerfed the stagger on that, which was a bit sad for me, but hey. And there's a couple other ones which is very, very strong. I know there's also like one of the twin blades where you can basically like basically just press LT and just jump at someone, then jump backwards, and jump at someone and jump backwards, and just like permanently murder someone. It's an experience for all involved.
Yeah.
Anyway, outside of Elden Ring, lads, I let you have a little a quick moment there. Outside of that, what have you been up to this past week? Lots of LJL to a degree, I imagine.
Yeah, some LJL. Luckily, I'm casting tomorrow as well, which is going to be very fun. Casting with Echo for the first time,
exciting.
I think. It'll be quite disappointing for him if I've already casted with him and already forgotten.
That's how much
but I'm excited to cast with him because I know Middlecott's been very positive about him so far. Everybody has, to be honest. He seems to be picking up very, very quickly, and he's only been casting for, I want to say, something like 6 months. It's a very short period of time. He's been doing very, very well. Yeah, casted Monday too. Been casting some RG too, my amateur leagues. I do like supporting those still because I'm actually still playing in RG as well, and we're going into losers bracket final tomorrow as well. So I'm going to see if I can get my now platinum 4 level mid lane gameplay into winners bracket. Well, I'm praying for myself, to be honest.
Well, good luck to you in that. Well, hopefully you'll come back with good news that platform mechanics were able to get you there.
I deserve challenger the experience from CasterOak.
Yes.
Yeah, Ego Oak, my friends call me.
I love that.
I think he said E-Girl Oak, and I was like, that was like, what was just like thirst trapping with like various.
Have you seen me in a
No, that's just my TikTok.
I mean, I have. That's the reason I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, yeah, I helped film that. I was told under no uncertain terms that if the TikTok did well, I would have to do the dance next. So
brilliant.
I'm alarmed. So
no duress involved or anything. No, he is
just slight.
Yes. Oh, okay.
I was told it was for the Vine, and that was about all I was given.
Yeah,
for the Vine. What a classic. I miss Vine. I mean, TikTok is just fine. I actually do watch TikTok,
Vine,
but yeah, it's good content, especially if you get in the TikTok's algorithm is so good that it's like.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, lads, how I'm doing rather than going into Vine and TikTok, because that's a good idea.
That's possibly reasonable. Yeah, go on.
That's not a realm I want us to go down. That is a slippery slope very quickly. But follow the LJLOU on TikTok, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, with that said, for me, my week has been a real mixed bag of chips. Some of them have been spicy, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them. Some of them have been soggy, and I haven't enjoyed them. And some of them have got sand because I went to the beach, and like I'm looking at it, like, do I want to deal with this day? Like, this is the chip I'm dealing with. And I still eat it, but it's got a bit of salt. There's a little bit of sand on there. It's a bit hard to get through, but you wake up the next day and you keep going. But I've had some good ones. I've had some bad ones. Notable thing, I've produced every single game day of LJL, so I'm pretty tired, in all honesty. But I've also seen every single game, so I'm very much ready for this. Honestly, LJL, live and breathe it, mate. That's been me. Sam, what have you been up to over this week? You've been as busy as me, just not always with LJL production, really.
I mean, yeah, I've done lots of NLC, lots of Elden Ring, lots of writing, lots of. I've got Viperoon is currently crashing now as well. He's doing NLC, so he's here, and we've been helping out with him a bit as well. I'm going to London for a couple of days this week as well, which would be nice. So, friend's birthday and stuff to go to. So finally going to do some of that. So just lots, really, is the answer. And then I've got there's NLC finals coming up as well, and then whatever may happen after that, depending on various things. So lots of life things occurring. It's been good, but busy, I think is the phrasing.
Being good, being busy, and that's how we're going to roll in to the LJL, because it is the second week-ish of Super Week. It's been a busy time, gents, to say the least. Lots of things have happened, and I mean, to start us off bluntly, we've got our top 6. We now know who has made playoffs. However, where the placement of some of these teams is going to be is up to subjects. But before we really go on to the top 6, we need to hold a slight moment of appreciation for Axis and V3 Esports, or maybe appreciation to Axis and disappointment to V3 Esports, unless they can make history and go undefeated in the wrong way, or unvictorious. I guess that's technically the phrasing there. V3 Esports, let's go on to them first. The disappointment, the idea that didn't pay out.
It's gotten worse, hasn't it? I think a lot of the other teams that were struggling have actually come online. Hawks finally pulled it together. They look passable, actually. They beat CGA. Yes, they lost to Sengoku, but that's Sengoku. It's still a disappointment compared to pre-split expectations. But if I took those pre-split expectations and then so the reality check after the first couple of weeks, we went, they're sucking, but they've come online. Then we look at V3 and we go, okay, Academy team. Yes, they've lost Marble, but my God, they were a great Academy team. I'm really excited for them. Maybe they can get a couple wins. Be Scary might not quite make playoffs, but could be a blue shell kind of deal. Maybe they're actually quite good and get a few spots up. They've just come in and been kind of unfortunately outclassed in pretty much everywhere. They've known how to there's been some early games where they've done okay in the early game, but they hit mid game and the decision making and just the raw mechanics just aren't there.
Well, on broadcast, I've been using a lot the 10-minute mark for V3. That's my measuring stick. I'm like, okay, they can get to 10 minutes, but then after that, I've got no hope for them.
Yeah, I remember I was doing prep for them and obviously the most recent set of games, and it's just kind of like, what feasible ways can V3 find?
What doesn't sound like I've got too much copium going on?
Yeah, and not to disrespect the team, but it's very difficult because I remember leaving comments of like Yu-Gi-Oh maybe, and that was pretty much it. Unfortunately, I'm excited to see how Axes, for example, I thought were actually, especially at the start of the split, that looked pretty good. And unfortunately, Smite Top was the biggest issue for them.
Was it more of a crux? Like,
that's what I mean. It got nerfed, and then suddenly it's like, oh, they aren't a team anymore.
Well, they said, but they couldn't seed like their bot lane. They couldn't play the bot lane the way they wanted anymore because clearly Sanctuary and Dicey, I still think, are clearly quite good. Actually, Sanctuary in particular, you can see this guy's got talent. Megamin as well, got some talent. Swamp even actually for jungler doing okay, but top lane has been a bit of a sinkhole. Megamin's gonna do just fine, but that's kind of it.
You know who I really want now that they're done realistically for the rest of this. But yes, they've got a few more games, ladies and gentlemen. But let's be real, Sam. You know, a Japanese player has to go into that spot. You know who I want going there? I want Konkog, man. I want Konkog in Axis. That team would.
Genuinely, that would make a lot of sense. I think Konkog is the kind of player that could really add a lot to Axis.
And could honestly be that veteran voice that kind of anchors them as well. Has the experience.
I mean, if Vivid wanted to come back, now's the time. I mean, actually, he'd be an import, wouldn't he? I don't know whether he had it. Did he have his residency? He was pretty close.
I don't know if he was one of those players that did or didn't. I can't remember.
I can't remember. Vivid would be a wonderful throwback.
Konkog and Vivid to join that roster.
Rascal Jesters, it's the return of the old school roster.
Wow,
when it was Art, Vivid, and Konkog.
I think I would low key put that as like a top 3, top 4 blanket team.
Look, I'm just gonna say this. Do you remember when I was like super high on nostalgia copium for Tussle?
Yeah, and then sad reality kept hitting in, and I kept being
the devil
on your...
I'm aware there was other stuff going on that obviously he had to be kind of the tip of the spear because no one else could do anything. And he was a new dad and clearly wasn't getting any sleep at all. But he wasn't particularly good. I can admit that now. I worry that particularly for say someone like Vivid, he stopped being in pro play for a bit now. For of course COVID kind of.
No, but he can do a recap, mate.
You're not wrong. We have actually seen it work, and Bjergsen's done the same. So like I'm just aware there's a world where these guys come in. And it's like, no.
Are there any other players in rather any other region that have really retired to some extent and then come back?
Did it?
Is Uzi to a degree doing that?
Yeah, Uzi's the big one for me. Double Lift as well did it, but not really. Like kind of.
If he comes back again, that will be interesting.
He's definitely done now. He's getting huge bank streaming, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think if he wanted to do it, it would be because he's earned enough money that he doesn't care about the streaming so much anymore, and he can just basically go and try and prove he's the best again.
Yeah,
and I could see that could be like a thing for him. I'm trying to think, who else was a good idea? EU wise.
I can't think of many players who have actually gone away
gone
from the
off and
game
come
and then
I mean,
come
back.
back.
does Perks
There is
moving to
that,
NA count as early retirement?
Sorry?
The thing is, memes,
Who?
yes. Because,
Perks.
Oh, for
moving to
his
NA.
stint in NA.
Stint in C9.
I mean, the thing is,
that was something.
memes, yes, but moving to Cloud9 of all orgs, no.
No, and also
Yeah,
what he
exactly.
did for the region and in the region and everything else, like still did
Like, it
stuff
didn't
that
work
the region
out
had
as well as they would
struggled
have
to
liked,
do.
but it was
Yep.
still a big deal for them.
I'm still rather, frankly, talking about that, I think I would have liked to have seen him actually hang around for another year, but I mean, that's just.
He wasn't enjoying
That
it.
was
He
never
mentally, I think
happening,
he was
but I
checked out.
mean, yeah.
I've been quite enjoying NA recently, actually. I think,
I
especially mid lane,
completely
we've had
agree.
return of Bjugs and Fudge in mid lane is
Actually
he's good. Yeah,
Summit.
it's crazy.
I mean, like,
Who
the
could have
top lane
seen
is
it?
in NA right now. Holy moly, the top three. Like,
mm.
you've got this kind of Korean, or like the kind of the Korean duo of Someday, Impact, and of course, like I can do this. Summit, of course. So Summit, Impact, and Someday, and then you've got Bwippo who's playing super well, and then it's not like Hooney's had his moments as well. Saw his rumble again more recently.
That's a really
pool
of players.
Yeah, like I've been really enjoying watching the NA tops, which is not something I was expecting to say.
But the rest of the LJL, though, with Axis and V3 Sports now well and truly relegated with no possibility of getting back. Remember, the reason you might be saying,
Alas.
hey, wait, Lexi, what about if Hawks don't win a game and then Axis are tied with them because they win all their games? Doesn't work out. Hawks have the head-to-head already. So their win over them over this last week actually
was a big deal. It was a big deal. Yeah,
it was. The other one, which there is technical movement that could happen, but we're going to be treating it as a virtual lock just for the sake of conversation and brevity. Destination Focus Me in that first place. Virtually locked in first. Yes, if they lost all their games now, Rascal Jester or Sengoku, well, Rascal Jester won out all their games, they could tie them. Rascal Jester have the head-to-head. They can leapfrog them. But let's be real, that's not going to happen. DFM are going to win one of their games. So
point of order. DFM are 3 games clear. There's only 2 games left to go.
3 games.
There's 2.
There's only 2 game days.
There's only 2 left.
Thank
we have
fuck,
got
mate.
we've got Wednesday and we've got Wednesday
Yeah,
and
there's
Friday.
2 days.
Oh, then we're locked. Oh, thank God.
So DFM are indeed locked first. So Rascal Jester could only get to 16. DFM are already at 17. So they are well and truly there.
There we go.
That.
With that said, though, I mean, Rascal Jesters and Sengoku Gaming are currently tied for and playing off with that second place spot. Obviously, though, Rascal Jester, off the top of my head, have the head-to-heads.
I believe they do, but I will double check that one.
Rascal Jester head-to-head. No, I think Sengoku have.
They lost it. Sengoku have the head-to-head.
Yeah.
Oh, Sengoku have the head-to-head.
They do. Yeah.
Yes,
it's been a good season to be a.
Oh, it was the bot lane diff.
Yes. It's been a good season to be a Sengoku fan. I joined in and I was like, hey, Jet looks cool. I'll support this team. And boy, oh boy, did I strike gold. This team is sick.
Honey is wonderful. And
yeah,
I'm so glad to
Honey
see
is amazing.
Once he's so good, I'm glad to see him do it.
Yeah.
We're jumping at the tables at the minute. Lexi, direct us before we start.
Paz is the other one that I'm really happy to see there because he has such a disappointing last year.
He was not good.
But I'm getting vibes.
He's been back to serviceable again. Like he's been actually really consistent, which is like serious praise. Because like I don't think he's not.
He's almost at his.
He's not an
Ebby,
days, but he's been playing. Yeah, he's been playing consistently well, especially considering you have got more than enough carries between Once, Jet, and Honey that are absorbing all the resources that another high resource player would just be not good. So I think he fits in really well with our organization right now.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how Sengoku do in the rest of this. Burning Core are currently 10-9 and kind of. I'll be honest, for me. Slight fall from grace, I'll be honest, over these last 4 days. I thought they would have a bit of wiggle room for these last few days. I thought they would be at least a cut above everybody, and they're almost with the rest, which is not where. And I'm getting a bit hung up on like they're not 11 and X.
Yeah, so
X,
their 2 big losses in the last 5 are to Rascal Jesters and DFM.
Yep.
Like I can forgive those. They are. I think for me, the top 3 is pretty clearly Rascal Jester, Sengoku, and then DFM at the top. I think Burning Core can challenge those, but I don't think it's necessarily a mark of shame to have been defeated by those teams. I think I would have liked to have seen them beat them, but it's like I know what you mean by the not from fall from grace. Like probably means you're fourth team, second.
Yes, and a slight because my issue with Burning Core is of the 6
against the top teams.
Yeah, that's where I thought.
Yeah.
Like I would expect a bit more, but I mean, in all fairness, you're not wrong. I just want. I'll be honest. I thought Flawless and Dice would do more
teams because how they kind of beat lower teams is the fact that their bot lane does get rolled and they can actually hard win top side. You don't get to do that against the likes of Jet, against Ebby, against Yaharong. And when you've got like Steel and Wants competing with you, like Flawless and Dice can match up to that. Ray Farkey can match up, but you can't guarantee us like an absolute like blowout win in that top side the way you can against some of the lower teams.
But I mean,
and that becomes an issue.
Personally, for this team, I just don't know how to feel about Flawless because obviously you're saying you think that he can definitely match up. I'm not so sure about that. I feel like his performances, especially recently, have been something left to be desired. And I think it's the reason why we're kind of seeing them more middling. It's because outside, well, now that people have figured out, hey, this guy's really good on Diana. So hot. Karthus? Is my brain? Yeah, the Karthus, right?
You said Karthus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. When he has to play a champion with a CC agency built within the kit, I feel like suddenly he looks a lot less strong. And whilst he's had some good performances, I mean, he had a decent performance on the Lee. It was like on the same game day we saw Lee support what looked so much better, and it's like, well, yeah, I don't know how to feel about Flawless.
I am looking forward to our power rankings. Because I think there are certain players where if you caught me halfway through this split, they would be on my top 3. But now that we're at the end, and I'll be honest, Sam, this third round Robin is so good for getting these last little things and seeing a little bit more out of every player. Because if it wasn't, I don't feel like I'd be this confident to a degree with defending my stance, at least.
Yeah.
But to defend the stances, Middlecock keeps saying that Crest Gaming Act are good, and then I'm going to throw Crest Gaming Act to you. But actually, go for it. Oh, go for it.
I was going to say, maybe specifically when we get to 80 carries, that's a conversation we can have because
Hybrid has had his moments. I agree.
I think Hybrid has not only had his moments, some very good moments, and I think there's a bit of differential within that team, especially within that bot lane, where Hybrid maybe if given a better chance to somebody else could have had a fantastic split and really carried this team.
But I don't think that supports the issue. That's the funny thing.
Oh, okay. So we've got a difference in opinion. Yeah, I had a lot of faith in Crest Game. Maybe it's because maybe I'm spending too much time with Middlecock.
My other thing is I also think Hybrid when Hybrid is not on Jinx, he looks significantly worse.
I thought he looked good on Aphelios.
It's the Aphelios. Sorry, wrong one, yeah. But seriously, like his positioning just dropped off a cliff after that.
He's a UC
like absolutely down a cliff off that. And like, don't get me wrong, I still think he's really good, and you can see but like there is an element of like, you are clearly so much more comfortable on this champion than the other ones, and it really shows.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough.
CJ, this week has been pretty weird for them. I believe they lost 1, 2, 3 games over the last few, like 3 or 4 in a row.
Oh, yeah, they're 3-2 or 2-3 even. They obviously won their game against V3, and then they won their game against. They lost to Hawks.
No, that was the thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
they lost to Hawks, and that's kind of where I wonder, is that as let's begin to talk about Hawks as well and kind of talk about this greater 6 now. Are the rankings an accurate representation of where the teams stand in a power ranking place, and kind of is this where we're expecting everyone to be? We've still got a few more game days. People can still flip. Things can still happen.
That sounds like a loaded question to me, Swan.
Absolutely,
I don't know
it is.
if
It's like I've been doing this for years, mate.
Are you going to answer the loaded question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Are you?
think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of space there for Hawks specifically. We've been watching them get better and better. It's kind of like watching a toddler finally learn to walk for the first time. It's very endearing, really, to see Hawks get these great players and actually have a performance with them.
They
But
got
yeah,
the
no, I
great
think there's space
players
there.
and they
I'm
certainly
excited to see
while.
because I think, to be honest, them being at the bottom end of the playoffs, meaning that they're going to have to play more games, is probably to their strength. Because every single series they play, they get a little bit, or game they play even, they get a little bit better. And now that we've got playoffs coming in, I'm all aboard the copium train. I really think this team could break into that.
So the only team
They
that
I don't know.
there's only one team in the history of this new playoff system for the LJL, because this playoff system only came in when we started covering the LJL,
Yeah.
so we're very familiar with its history. Only DFM have made it through from this side of the lower bracket all the way to finals.
Oh, okay. I thought CGA had like a brief. They made it out the first bracket as well once. I think every other team has immediately fallen, which is hilarious.
Yes. One team will always make it out of the first 2 rounds, but round 3 is where things can get a bit spicy. DFM were able to do it all the way through. That really weird game versus Sengoku Gaming, which allowed them to then go through and play against V3 Esports, but then were not able to get the win over V3 Esports in the finals. V3 represented us at Worlds in 2020, which was
certainly something.
it was a thing. But this last week that has happened, I want to ask you gentlemen more blanket. Are you surprised with how the teams, where we've ended up at the end of the day, just as more of a whole? I'll take it out first, though. I'm not surprised. I'm actually, with how things have been going over this last 2-3 weeks, really, I honestly hoped for Hawks' trajectory to come online. That was the only one I was gambling on. Other than that, I'm actually pretty comfortable. I thought Rascal Jester would be second. Then they're tied second, so they're kind of there, but the honey diff is more online than I thought it was, and it's so good to see that.
Well, also, once has turned up. Like, that's great news.
That's true.
I think what I'll say is,
after a year of not being on live in Burning Core, it's nice to see.
I think if I saw these standings having at the beginning of the split, so this is how it's going to end up, and go, that feels about okay. I think I would be surprised to see V3 winless. I would have gone, Hawks, it's a thing with this team. I don't know what's going on. It just seems to happen that there's some inconsistencies and it kind of takes a while for them to come online. I think Burning Core would have surprised me. I would go, so Flawless and Dice turning up actually really did help this team go somewhere. And I would also go on Sengoku, once new breath of life, and this guy Jet, great to see. So this means this team's actually come. Like, I had hope for this team, but there were enough unknowns there that things could have gone wrong with my predictions. But I think it's really gratifying to see, actually for DFM, they brought in Yarong and Harp. They're Japanese speakers. They smashed it. Awesome. That's what I'd love to see. I was worried this team was going to downgrade. And actually, it feels that, honestly, they've stayed at least as good. It feels like in a lot of ways. Maybe we're over-egging it a bit, but they've seemed pretty good. And then you got like Rascal Jester, Sengoku's Rascal Jester. Took them a little bit. There was a bit of a slump in the middle. But they're kind of like, another one of these people who seem to have a bit of an edge over DFM. COVID situations allowing an Ebby having to, sit aside for a game or two. Like add that underneath. Alas, Utapon's Renekton getting ganked on his way back to lane.
I'm sad we didn't get Kazu back. I'll be honest, man.
That would have been great. That would have been so much fun. But there's a lot here where I go, that's pretty cool. I think perhaps CGA would have surprised me a little bit. Because I half thought they would be worse than they were.
Yeah, okay. If you had shown me this at the very end, like at the very beginning before we went in, I would have been like, Hawks did not do this. And that would be the main one I think I would get hung up on. But yeah, no, I align with everything you've said, Sam. What about you, Oak?
Yeah, by and large,
noob coming in.
Yeah, so I got coming pretty fresh, which means I get the perspective of coming in with DFM being just because I ended up. When did I start watching the LJL? I want to say just before playoffs last year, and I remember watching DFM get utterly shafted 3-0 by Rascal Jester. So when I first came to the split and I saw Rascal Jester with the same squad and DFM having replaced their best player. in Gang. Well, actually, maybe people would argue Aria.
No,
but,
no. Honestly, we've
no.
talked with a lot of coaches and players. They were all saying like Gang is also right up there with that.
Yeah,
so
when I
don't
was
worry about
watching,
that
I was like,
argument,
this
it's fine.
guy's
He's
utterly
really good.
insane in
He's
support. The
really
differential
good.
was ridiculous.
He is.
He's really good.
Yeah, he's really good. And that was really the big thing. I was like, Rascal Jess is going to take it then. That was where my mind instantly went. I thought Eno would be which I mean, Kanatsu was really good, but it's like I thought maybe he'd function better with the team. Seeing DFM still take it, but I'm not surprised about that. And then, as you mentioned, Hawks, it's like, oh, okay, they didn't get the ball rolling at the start, so that's where this has come from. But it's nice to see them in playoffs, as mentioned. That's a big win for me because obviously, as a person whose particular interest is in the mid lane, like Dasher has had a really good split, even through all the troubles this team has had. And it's nice to see him in there. And I think hopefully when we talk about mid lane as well, when we talk about our picks for the season, I get to talk a little bit about how Ari has come in to really help deal with some of the mid lane stagnation that this season has had a trouble with.
Towards the beginning as well, it's like Victor Corky, baby, my favorite duo of mid laners.
So boring. Corky especially. I can kind of give space for Victor. But
I don't mind them being around, but when they are the prominent picks, everything is dull. For all that, when she first got reworked and stuff, she was horribly busted. But like Akali, Irelia, even Zoe, as a viewer, I enjoy watching that more.
Hey,
I get why it's frustrating.
Bird Person a lot more just because of the flashy.
Yes, exactly. Even Azir is more entertaining than Corky Victor. Oh my god, it makes me sick.
Watching proactive Azir is great. There's something to that. I agree. But it's one of those ones as well. Where, like, if you're ever in a meta where these are the only picks you can play, it gets a bit sad. Like, I think there is still room for Azir, Victor, Orianna, even a bit of Corky still around. It's just more like composition that you need to work around it now. You can't just like round one them really at the minute. You want them kind of like B4, R5 even at this point.
I think the final nail in the coffin mid lane is please nerf Ryze. I've seen some nerfs on PB already, but just please nerf this build. It needs to go. Oh, brilliant.
Ryze can never be nerfed fully. They will just have to change him, evolve him, for he isn't ever constant on the rift. Ryze will always survive.
He will.
He will. Outside of that, any team that has particularly surprised you, lads, or anything that you want to call out? Yeah, go for it, Oak.
I like CGA, seriously. I think watching Hybrid has been a treat. Yes, I think it's true. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of, what's the word? Pay-by-play bias here coming in. CJ has been a treat to watch. Even through, I think the best part was that I mostly got to cast him at the start of the season when they were doing quite well. And it's like, and since then it's like, whoo, goodbye.
Like, I think it's fair to say Hybrid is a good AD carry. Cassin when he gets to play things that carry and does something. You know that meme of like poking something with a stick, like do something.
Yes.
That's basically what I have with Cassin. If he does something, he's really good. And then Nap has actually really stepped up.
Nap is the one that I've also really enjoyed. I don't really care for CGA's mid lane, to be honest. I think it's really boring. But Nap, the opposite of sleeping with that toy, I think he's really excited, especially when he plays stuff like Akali, right?
Yeah, I think considering he's a rookie, I'll give Kaito some space. But like, this team has issues with actually what comps they can play. This team has issue with having people who can be go buttons, because I don't think Nemo and Cassin have the best synergy. Even if I consider both of them to actually have pretty good hands. Yes.
I mean,
they have okay uses of their finger use is okay.
They're just fine.
For me, I think for me, I fall more down on like CJ as a team has fundamental flaws at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they have not found the solution to those flaws. Will they?
Who knows?
Maybe.
They're exploitable against teams that know what they're doing.
But it's not going to happen till summer. Like, they are not. It is not like there is not a band-aid solution that they can put in for this. There are fundamental issues. There are also hand issues. When they get hand checked, certain players just do not stand up to it. Nap, probably one of the better players on that side, where if you hands check him, he will be ready
He'll at least,
for it.
yeah, exactly. He's not a strong
Whereas-
side player per se, but he's a very stable, and you get him even into a mid game
Yeah.
play, he'll carry for you. If
He
you
will
need to.
always be able to be put up against the top in LJL, and will never be a leaking point as a
No.
stat or sort of phrase that I've used in the past. He
I know what you
isn't
mean.
the point where you will lose pressure.
He isn't the
where you'll
he isn't
lose-
the hole in the hull. Yeah.
No, he's not. That's where I look more towards jungle, quite frankly, and
And,
mid
like-
for CGA, which is something I'm real because like CJ has so many parts where I'm looking forward to it. Like the bot lane, I honestly think come summer, if it's a repeat of Axis, might be cracked. This bot lane might become like the second best bot lane in the region. Literally, the ceiling on Nemo is so high because we've seen it once before, but the floor is so low. It's on the ground.
That's been the biggest thing for me is that Nema has. Oh man, I don't really want to talk about it because I feel like I'm bullying him a little bit because unfortunately my cast have also been very vocal about it as well. In that sometimes he's looked really good, most of the time he's looked mediocre, and sometimes he's looked absolutely awful. Yeah, I just want to note real quick. You guys bring in new metaphors every single podcast, and I love it. Hole in the hull, or whatever you said, Sam, was hilarious.
He's not the hole in the hull. He's not. There's hull breakers all over the place for a while. So what can I say?
Oh
See?
God, no. God. All right, fine. You're too happy.
In the top lane as well. See, it was all calculated, guys.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing stuff on my other monitor, and I think we're ready to go into it. It's a little bit scuffed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. It is kind of giga scuffed.
That's fine.
It's so scuffed.
Yes, we wouldn't have it any other way. We're going to transition over, ladies and gentlemen. And for the timestamp over there, this is where we begin our LJL All-Pro teams. We have got Nymeras as well, ladies and gentlemen. I will be reading out, or Sam or Oak will read out his picks as and when we go through them.
Yep.
We will also be doing a tweet, probably from all four of us, because, I mean, why not? We've done the work.
I love tweeting.
We will be also doing an official LJL, officially unofficial All-Pro team with our graphics. If you followed us,
once we've done some votes and stuff on that.
Yes,
Exactly.
if you followed us last summer, same as that, basically, once again, because it was really cool to do, and we thoroughly enjoyed doing that. With that said, though, gents, for Spring Split, in the support role, as I am a support main, so that's where we always begin out, I have gone with Enti as my third All-Pro support player. Sam, who have you gone with?
So is this for? Are we doing start with support? Is it? I see.
Yeah, we're
So
going to
you
go
went
third
NT.
All-Pro.
I get you.
Actually, let's just. Should we do all of the All-Pro teams?
Yeah.
Or, in each one? Do you want to do that?
Let's do third and then move up. I think.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so I'll do my all third. So I have got NT as my support. My AD carry is Soul.
Yep.
My mid is Recap. My jungle is Hachimecha. My top laner is Nap.
Okay.
Sam, if you would like to unveil your third All-Pro team.
I went Nap, Flawless, Dice, Sol, and NT.
Interesting. Oak, if you could do yours for me, please.
Yes, I will do mine real quick. And mine was Rayfaki once, Yaharong, Utapon, and NT.
Interesting. Put Yaharong down there.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is where the spice comes in.
And Al didn't do a top lane.
No top laner. Once in the jungle for Nymera. Recap, Soul, and Secret were the rest of his picks. No top laner. That is interesting, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I think that's probably a mistake as well.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe he just thinks that Blank should actually role swap the top lane.
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, what's interesting here, obviously, immediate reactions. We've got a lot the same, Sam. We've got 3 out of the 5 actually identical, which surprised me a little bit there.
Like, so, full disclosure, I was debating between Nap and somebody else for this spot, and I suspect you might be a little upset with one player who's not in there. But I've got Nap there because I actually think that while he's not been dominant, he's actually been incredibly consistent and really, really pivotal in his playstyle for why CJ picked up some of the wins they have. So I did put him there. I went for Flawless and Dice because I actually think they have actually been really, really, really good when they've been on, like really, really good. And statistically and stuff,
Okay.
Flawless has smashed it, like absolutely crushed it. And especially considering there are pretty clear flaws in Burning Core, like ironic considering the name of Flawless, I know. I think Flawless's ability basically say, look, I have to be the carry. Give me things like the Carthus, give me things like the Hecker, and give me the Graves, and I will do the work for you because I can't necessarily guarantee I'll have an AD carry that will.
That's true.
Even if the I can basically come in and smash it. I think Dice has also been similarly like actually a pretty good mid laner. He's been right up there. As far as, I don't think he's as consistent enough to go higher up for both of these players, but I do think they have been really, really good considering the flaws of their team. They've still been very impressive, which I honestly gives them praise in my mind. I don't think Burning Core would be anywhere near as good as they are if you didn't have players of the caliber of Flawless and Dice.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm going to come over to you, Oak, because we all three of us share NT being third. What influenced you for that? And kind of, if you want to flesh out the rest of your all-pro team.
I think NT's just kind of a monster. He's been a really big facilitator for this team. I think the fact that, well, I feel like a lot of other supports have pigeonholed themselves a little bit, and maybe NT shares some of that similarity. But overall, I've been enjoying. I'm a big Sengoku fan, so pinch of salt. But I've been really enjoying watching NT guide this team and be a big facilitator. I think the rest of it is interestingly. I'm seeing you guys launch into. I mean, Lexi, I love that you've got a lot of Rascal Jester players in there. I'm surprised that. Sam, you and me have both chosen some Burning Core members, but I have differing opinions to you. I think Flawless and Dice. I don't really rate Flawless the high, but I think Ray Farkey has been.
I completely agree. Ray Farkey's great. Wait till my second all-pro team.
Okay, brilliant.
I mean,
there we go.
I will be far more honest, mate. Your ranking of Yaharong and Utapon.
Yeah, that's criminal.
So this is the spice.
Criminal.
Yeah, I think with benefit of hindsight, maybe Utapon's a bit troll. I still believe my mid lane ranking for Yaharong is correct here. I think, and I'll think what I'll do is I'll elaborate more on why I haven't rated these two DFM players as highly, because obviously DFM have looked incredibly dominant in this split, and it's really, I think, a testament to one key player. But I'll say that for now.
Well, I think that's about time. Can you do me the honors of saying your second all-pro team, please?
Absolutely. Is it these five? I think it is.
Looks like it
is.
is.
These are my second placed or second all-pro team. So Eno in the top lane, Hachimecha, Recap, Honey, and Secret.
I know.
Come on, man. Go. Get it right.
You get it on the podcast, mate. Oh,
shocking.
Rough. Sam, please do me the honors.
Ray Farkey wants Yaharong, Honey, and Harp.
Wow. Okay. For me, Jesus, you guys rated some different people higher. I went with Ino in the top lane once, Yaharong, Utapon, and Secret. Well.
Wow.
And for Nymera. Obviously.
Okay.
We should mention, it's always interesting.
He's gone for Yuhi in every role.
He went for Ray Farkey in the top lane, Hachimecha in the jungle, mid was Yaharong, Utapon in ADC, and Fujimoto.
Okay.
That is a choice that he has made. I can respect that. That's
really
bigger
good,
balls than I had putting Yaharong in third.
Okay, so what I'll say is for Fujimoto, I think his Tahm Kench has been really, really clean. He's also had to play with Yuhi, who I think has, as the split's gone on, become more of a liability again. I still think he's not as bad as he was last year, don't get me wrong, but he's clearly the floor on the team in terms of like, you can't, if you put him under pressure, he can crack. And Fujimoto's actually done a pretty good job of playing around that.
LJL expert Nymera just put him second in his all-pro team, so he can't have any flaws, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
No bias.
Yeah. So I want to think. Have I done anything super weird here? I suppose Honey being in second is possibly one that people might argue a little bit. I think he's been really, 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 really good. Don't get me wrong. But I think he's a bit inflexible. I think he only plays one style, and it's also pretty clear that, like, actually, he's also just significantly less good off Jinx. He's always been a fantastic Jinx player, and he's very lucky that Jinx is the current meta, but he's a bad Jhin. He's an okay Jhin. He's a bad Tristan. His Zeri is not good. Like, his Aphelios is fine, but like I actually think his champion pool is more limited than people think. I think his playstyle is more limited than people think. I think he just plays the playstyle he does play exceptionally well. If it turns into a utility meta, I will be interested to see if Honey's anywhere near as good.
And let me see. I think Honey, I'm pretty much on the same boat as you are. So happy that you explained it all for me, so I don't have to explain it myself, as you worded it oh so well. Another big thing maybe could be, I mean, Recap, who is not on the list so far. I really enjoyed watching Recap the split. He has had a bit, I mean, a bit of a different pool.
Yeah.
Sorry?
And I had him in third.
Sorry, Namera had Recap in third.
There you go. There you go. So you two had him in third. I had him in second, which maybe is more divisive than you guys having him in third. I think so far he's been a bit of a one trick, but I love me some Veigar. I think, especially when he's been able to slot himself well into drafts, specifically that R3 point, I think he's done pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
So
for the record, I obviously I've not revealed my first place mid, but he's fourth. He's fourth. The Recap is fourth for me, basically. So
okay.
Wow.
So like I think he's been good, and I think he's been a really important role player for Rascal Jesters. But
this is the whole split, so
yeah. So I think largely what he's been as a role player, he's still like he's a very good Veigar, and obviously he's very good in terms of opportunistic RE play. But I don't think he's necessarily going to be a lane dominant player. I'm not always impressed with his roaming. I think he can get trapped in lane. He's actually quite gankable if Hatcher Metcha's not around, but that's also a weakness of Hatcher Metcha, which is also the reason why I don't have him on the list so far either. Because I still have my issue with Hatcher Metcha. He's been really good, but I don't think he's top 3 for me.
Because I don't agree with you, because I think we've only recently seen the cracks like that for them, especially because
middle of the split he was being exploited as hell.
I would disagree.
He came back
if he was
again.
Exploited. I would argue
he
that
died 3 times in 10 minutes.
No. So there's a difference between
into bushes.
There's a difference between poor play in in 1 or 2 games and just having a bad game and then actually being bad and being exploited. No, I don't think he was exploited. I think he just played poorly, is how I read it.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, but I still have that issue, and I also think that if Sol gets shut down, and it has happened occasionally, because actually it's been some really good bot lanes in the LJL split, good players, it hurt me to put Sol in third, because he's one of my all-time favorite players in the LJL at the minute. I love that guy. But he's he's lost some gunfights. There's been a few times where he's been asked to stand up and fight, and actually he's lost a few of those actually. And actually, when that's happened, I don't think Recap's been the guy to stand up and hard carry in place when they've kind of wanted him to. He's been really good, but he's fourth for me. And I see the arguments for him. I don't hate you for making those choices. I just haven't valued him quite as highly.
Fair enough.
Sam, can you do me the pleasures of announcing your first All-Pro team?
All right. In the top lane, Abby. Thank you.
Could have seen this coming.
In the jungle, Steel.
No.
In the mid lane, Jet City. In the ADC role, Unipon. And then in the support role, Secret.
All right. Well, I will.
Yeah, how is that for hype or pro?
All right. So
good.
I agree with you on the first 3. Crazy.
Yep.
Actual crazy. No, it's not crazy. But we have some disagreements when it comes to the bot laners by basically semantics of one place.
Yeah, I know. We've switched our role. We switched our two. I see you, buddy.
Let's see how bloody we really want to get with that
Honey
one.
and Heart for you in first.
Right. I mean, it's nice that we're all agreed on the top side of the map. Because this is crazy.
They've been really good. They've all been really good.
This is a brand new experience for us all. This bot side, though, I think is really the maybe where you guys will disagree with me here.
You've gone Sol there. I mean, we've got the same AD carries.
So
different positions.
I'm starting to think. Okay, so I will be a truther here. I've missed a couple of games recently. of the LJL. And so I'm thinking maybe I've missed something here because you guys are talking about as we get Alex's review as well. And
That's true.
So Alex is
He
got
is-
Honey in
Okay.
top,
Oh,
Steel in
you
the
are
jungle, Jet in the
identical,
mid lane,
Lexi.
ADC Honey, and Harp in support for our audio listeners
Mhm.
out there and for just people in general.
I mean, let's talk about Harp real quick because
Sure.
I
Yeah.
specifically think this man has been
He's been really good.
amazing, absolutely beautiful watching him play the game. It's almost artistic in the way he manages to, I think, especially handle mid game, specifically looking at mid game play and how, I mean,
He's so good.
obviously Steel is just the most ridiculous man alive, and I think has stolen the spotlight for me in terms of maybe split MVP even.
He's been really good.
But I think
it's
Harp has
probably
also
still
been a big
Ebby,
facilitator
but
for the rest of the team, and it's why we see them when it's that DFM 15 minutes, where it's like they found, okay, well, they're really good at finding leads in the first place, but once they hit 15 minutes mark, it seems like it's almost like this team cannot be challenged anymore, and I think Harp has been one of the big reasons for that.
I completely agree. For the longest time, I had Harp in first.
Oh,
I switched it around
Mhm.
because I thought about it a little bit more, and I hear all those points, and I think it's a very worthy position to put Harp in. I chose to put Harp down a spot basically because I have also seen him throw some really big leads in lane.
okay.
There were multiple games on Thresh where he starts walking by himself to go and look for kills 1v2 at the enemy tier 2. And Utapod's like, my guy, we just got 2 kills. Please, not like this. And there's still a little bit of the like, it's the rookie firebrand stuff, which is really cool. It's really exciting. It can burn him a little bit sometimes. The only reason I've dropped him down is that just sometimes I see him hand over advantages he shouldn't do. And I went for Secret up there because I think Sol has been good, and like I still think he's an amazing AD carry. I just think Honey and Udapon have been slightly better. I also think Sol has been at points put in difficult positions. Not always his fault, it's AD carry problem, but I often think like when Rascal Jesters turned it around, Secret was back to his antics of just being a god tier roaming playmaker. Like, holy shit. If you're looking for the power behind that duo, Sol is amazing, but he's backed up by the fact that Secret is the best support in the whole of the LJL at spotting when somebody's out of positioning and punishing it.
Disagree.
Like, he always does it. Well, look, talk to Joshi about it because he had this conversation at finals last year, remember?
Yeah, he did.
And like, and I still think and I think he's been really, really, really pivotal to why, I've got a lot, if you look where I've got my Rascal Jesters members, I don't have their top side in there. And I'm asking why Rascal Jester second. Sol is amazing, but for me, it's Secret.
You went Ray
so much
Farkey in your top
yeah,
3.
he's been really good.
Like,
So did Alex.
Yeah, he did.
So did Oak. You're the only one who didn't.
Yeah, and I think Ino has been huge for that team.
Yeah, he's been, again, he was 4th for me. So he was the guy I was debating between him and Nap.
Yeah, but I mean, in that same thing, everybody has put Eddie, right? Like we all understand.
Oh my god.
We can be semantic.
There's
we
no
can
fight.
be like, oh well, it's this, oh it's that. It doesn't matter. We all agree that the top 3 in the LJL right now, when it comes to it, cut and dry, Ebby, Steel, and Jet are the top 3.
And Ebby especially for me has been it's like that holy shit moment, like where it's like, wow, he really is like a cut above. Like obviously Jet as well has been a standout solo laner, but we'll get into the semantics of why we think he functions so well, specifically in how he's navigated himself through draft. Evie, on the other hand, though, has, I think, just a fantastic pool for every single other player in the league. I think specifically stuff like the Camille. I also don't think he's really broad. He's really gone to his full extent of the pool. It's the same with Steel. But stuff like the Camille, which I specifically would love to look out for, and then obviously the more meta-defined players. Yeah, exactly. The Tryndamere has been uncontested in play. His Tryndamere is just cut above.
The versatility that has come out of Ebby has been something we've wanted to see for such a long period of time. And honestly, I have to assume he got bodied by Summit and other Korean top laners, like just all over off season. And then came into this, and now it's like, oh god, he's powered up further.
Yeah.
What is this?
It is weird watching, because I got to watch him last split as well. It is weird watching him get just better as well. I thought DFM, the players who had remained would be.
This is the
but it's
best
just
I've seen Ebby look, period.
Yeah.
Like, I have rarely seen this level of dominance from a player. And don't get me wrong, we're missing Cog. That's probably one of the better top laners we lost. But Ray Farkey actually has had a pretty good split, and Burning Gore haven't been burning apart. So, like, he's actually been pretty good. We've had Ino and Kinat.
though.
Yeah, we got Ino, Kinatsu, and Napa are all fine, but none of them, absolutely none of them can do anything to this man. He has been unreal. He's been so flexible on a lot of picks. Like, it was the reason we're saying a lot of this is I've been following Ebby for years, like years and years and years. And I know, there was an episode around Worlds last year of, I think it would have been Summoning Insight, where it was Peter from Evil Geniuses, Coach Peter Dunn, there we go. Was basically saying, look, actually, the time when he was on Splice before it rebranded to Mad Lions, and saying, actually, they debated picking up Ebby. Like, there was a serious consideration picking this guy up because he was just, like, really, really, really good. The only thing is he basically just plays bruises, or he felt like he only did. And he has gone, even at Worlds, right? Like, he was like, they weren't playing towards him, they were at MSI because they were looking to play towards mid lane through mid jungle effectively and get like Talon on steel and that kind of thing.
And it worked. The theory,
and it worked. But he was on like and Urgot duty, right? And
Yeah.
like, can you survive the lane? It wasn't really like good teleports bot, right? To turn things around down there and make the playmaking.
Yeah, it was gang shot calling and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then this split, he's gone, right, all of these champions, which you barely see me play, Fiora, Jace, Camille, Gwen, Akali. The most he's played of any champion is Tryndamere. That's because if Tryndamere's open, you give it to him and it's a free win. And it turns out you can probably flex it because Yaharon plays it as well. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, it's all over.
He's not played a game of Renekton.
Like, what? Never seen a
Yaharon
guy.
has been the Renekton guy. Like, that's the mental part of a lot of this at the moment. And it's truly a glow-up moment, which is just kind of like, where does that take us? Because if Ebby looked this good, I'm excited to see him at International, but he's got to make it there first, and other competition in the region is going to do it there. Gentlemen, I want to move it over to our junglers because, well, we've all gone Steel. And then we've all got Hachimecha. Oh no, we don't actually all have Hachimecha.
I don't have Hachimecha.
So you don't have Hachimecha. And ultimately, we're all rather divided when it comes to our junglers outside of Steel. Really, we've got wants to a degree in all of us. Yes, everybody has wants, but we don't all have Hachimecha, which is interesting because you put Flawless.
Which I very much disagree with, but you know what? I think the way you phrased it, specifically talking about how he has been a lot of agency for his team. Yeah.
He can think that. He's still wrong. He can just.
I actually still think Hachimecha's been actually remarkably unimpressive this split.
Wow, he's doubling down.
Okay, so like the guy is literally.
So I mean, he's wrong.
Like he is forever behind in XP, CS, and kill participation. He doesn't do he's behind in every single stat that matters. Like he is. Don't get me wrong.
Stats only say so much.
I know, but the reason I am saying this is because he is picking like stuff like the volley bear and all the rest of it, and like getting things done. Don't get me wrong. He's a good playmaker, but I still think that when Rascal Jests are losing, and they have been losing, it's because, as expected, you can mess up Hachimecha early and then he can't recover. He is a bad triage jungler. He cannot, when things go wrong, recover. It has been true for years. It's been true this split. And he actually is very bad about finding individual leads. You can't ask him to find individual leads because he just doesn't do it. He's very good at early pathing. He's got great synergy in terms of looking with his mid and with his support to make things happen. But I actually think Hachimecha is being pulled up a little bit because Secret's really good at roaming with him. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Hachimecha is bad, but I think there is a clear cut between the likes of Hachimecha, Once, and even Flawless. And don't get me wrong, I think he's good, but we had this issue last year where like the guy has cool moments like insecking people away on this Jin Zhao to save a team fight. But yeah, you're also down 30 CS, have managed to have inted a few times in the jungle, have just aimlessly wandered between bushes,
See,
inefficiently bombing. He is
that's
such an
where
inefficient jungler.
I don't have an issue really with his farming because Recap is just destroying people in that kind of capacity because
No,
he
he's
is
not.
taking.
He's down CS and behind all the time.
He is literally, yeah, but Recap is literally taking some of Hachimetra's farm.
And yet Recap is still down CS.
Hachimetra is sacrificing himself. He's selfless jungler a lot of the time, in my opinion. And I also feel like
Recap is only better than Yu-Gi-Oh and Megamid at farming. He's behind everybody else in the league.
Yeah, but he's also playing Veigar.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing. I think you guys are missing pools a little bit. I'm going to give some Rascal Jester support here because they are second in the standings. They are the team that's successful.
I've got Hachimetra as my second place jungler.
Yeah, exactly. So do I as well. And so I want to pair this up with Recap.
If you're playing Jin Zhao and Volibear and are still not involved with that many first bloods and down in kill participation, there's problems.
Well, no. What makes you say you have to be involved in that?
You're playing some of the most kill-involved junglers in the world.
No.
You
But
check
why?
the stats on those champions.
No.
That's how those champions play.
Why do you have to opt in? Because I don't think Rascal Jester play that play style.
Yep, absolutely.
I agree.
Yep.
No, I agree. You're right.
I don't think Hachimetra has.
But my point is, I think he's very inefficient. Very inefficient as a jungler, and I also don't think he gets that much done. And that's my problem. It's like, okay, so you're inefficient. I'm not actually trading that for anything. So what are you doing?
Don't think I agree still at all. I've heard your arguments, but he's he's 3 in my heart.
I think
he's the fourth in my book.
I think, Lexi, you hit it on the note there, is that they just don't opt in for some early game stuff in exchange for stuff that they draft into, which I think you mentioned, specifically the Xin Zhao and the Volibear, as big early game facilitators. But I feel like in their wins, Soul and Secret have been the reason why. Soul and Secret have actually been the big facilitators for that early game, I think, thus far. And I think that's the reason why Recap can opt into stuff that scales more easily and why he can go down in CS is because they know that they can play super safe in the mid side. Then once mid game hits and the LJL Classic comes into it, they're one of the, if not the best at playing that mid game, which is why I think they've got a successful play into DFM, but also have a losing setup against Sengoku because these teams all have different play styles.
No, like I don't think Hachimetra is bad, but I actually think he's been carried by the fact the team is good. Like I think you put him into CGA and that team looks awful.
I would love to pull up. I wish we had clips now. I should have pulled some clips of Rascal Jester's mid game because sometimes he just does the most insane shit.
Don't get me wrong. He is an amazing mid game player. He really is. I don't think Hachimetra is bad. Don't get me wrong. I really don't. But I also don't think he's.
You just don't rate him in top 3.
I don't think he's top 3. I think he's been carried by the fact the rest of Rascal Jester's good. Is my point. And I think it shows in his numbers, like big time. Like he's got no good numbers.
We will move on
mediocre at best.
We will move on though, because we should talk about the mid lane pool, because we haven't mentioned them much, really. We talked about Recap, and then we kind of didn't actually compare though and contrast around other mids. Obviously, Recap has got some placement on 3 out of the 4 lists, but the mainstay and what I think is worth highlighting a lot is Jet, the top laner, well, the mid laner for Sengoku Gaming, and Jet has come in, broken this region, and the fact is, gentlemen, all of us are putting him over Yaharong, and Yaharong is on that DFM team. He's on that winning team that is defining the league at the moment, and yet Yaharong isn't first. Why did we unanimously not put him first, is my question to one of you.
So I think Yaharong's actually been really, 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 really good. And I think he's been very versatile. Like he's done everything from like Renekton. But I think he's great. I really do. But he's like, but he's also
great.
like I think I think there's an argument. So I think he is. But I just don't think he's necessarily So I think I genuinely think he's really good. I think he's right.
Couldn't do the analogy with me, could you? You couldn't do it with me.
No, not at all. Because I think you're wrong on that front. But like he's been like Yaharong's been super flexible, really versatile. He's like winning lane every time. Like he's playing everything from Ahri and Ryze to like Renekton and Veigar. Good stuff. And then you look at Jet and you go, Sengoku have got Honey and that's wonderful. They also have Jet who has just been unreal. Like DFM have like when they've needed to, they played through Yaharong, but he's kind of been like there doing really well. But Jet's just kind of been like, all right, kids, let me come and like style on you with like Silas and Akali and all this other stuff. And it's just another level. I don't understand. This guy is so good.
Yeah, I'm going to double down with that because I think, and this maybe can lead into why I placed Yaharong and Utapon so low on the tier list. This is something you guys were questioning right at the start of it, and I think it's mostly through Harp and Steel being absolute monsters. And I think Jet is an absolute monster. You can see actually Sengoku they're doing okay on my tier list, but they're also once an NT on the bottom part of my tier list. And I think Jet has been such a good facilitator for not only. Now, I think one of the big depths we'll get into talking about this player is the fact that he is very often given counter pick. And specifically on red side, they have a very, very high win rate on red side. A lot more games on red side as well, but nonetheless, should be mentioned. And this comes in tangent with also Sengoku's, the most banned champions against Sengoku are Silas, LeBlanc, and Ari as well. I think Ari's on the top 5, maybe. This player just pulls so much pressure. Sengoku give it back in return, and it seems to be working out pretty well for them because this player is just absolutely insane.
So I'll say this. I think if this was an MVP poll, I would agree with you on Utapon and Yaharong. This is not an MVP poll. It's not most valuable. It's best, and that's a very different thing. And Yaharong and Utapon have been absolutely stellar, elite tier players. And I think just because Steel and Harp have been excellent and have done a lot of work, have like been really key to them being really good. Like I actually don't think that like underestimates the fact that like it helps that they've like doesn't underestimate the fact that Yaharong and Utapon have been really, 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 really good. Like
I think Lexi, you're about to say what I was gonna say, but you want to say it first?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to use that point, mate. I can't believe everything you said about Honey is then used for what you said. No. You got to say what you said about Honey earlier. It's my turn to talk about Honey for a moment, mate. Because how I can't fathom the fact that Honey isn't number 1 and the fact in your eyes it is honestly a travesty, mate. Like Utapon, he's our boy. He will be the one going to Worlds, and I want him to be the one to represent us at Worlds. Like they don't get it twisted. But Honey is cracked beyond belief. He has played so many different champions and popped off on them. You said he looked bad on his Jhin. I think we watched the different game, mate. I legitimately
that's fair. I remember the game it was. I take that back. The Jhin was good.
Yeah, and the fact is, a lot of teams don't know how to punish Honey because a few of them have tried to push a few buttons and go, I think we're going to get him. And then he looks great on a different champion. And I think the fact is, I don't know if he's been pushed enough that you can actually ban him out. And I'm confident, and I will put it, and I will die by that flag.
It was the Tristana I was thinking of that was not good.
One game on Tristana is not enough for me to do.
He's on one game on Jhin.
I want to make reference quickly to the fact that AD Carry has been a handshake role for the past 5 patches, and only now are we finally seeing a bit of variability in AD Carry that could maybe shake things up. And that's why Honey. I mean, to felt honestly, AD Carry was the hardest thing for me to rank because specifically all of these 3 players, it's been especially difficult for me to try and find enough of a disparity between AD. You seem to love Honey, and I respect that. I'm a big single.
I've been supporting him when he was like real.
It's just like the fact that Jinx and Aphelios. I think Sam, you said the fact that Jinx has happened to be one of the best AD carries this split has really helped this player. I would agree, and the fact that also he happens to be in a team where he needs to blind pick. Well, most AD carries are anyway, but that they're giving a handshake on the Jinx and Aphelios. Exactly. That's the thing. On blue side, their big saving grace is the fact that they can just do Jinx every game, and Honey looks, it's good. He's happy. Woo, I'm on Jinx again.
And I also say when you were saying, oh my god, like my argument still stands for why Honey, because this is not an MVP poll. This is a best poll.
Yeah, and I still think he's the best.
So that's my point. So if it was an MVP, I might put Honey there, but it's not. Because I think he's super valuable to Sengoku. Because it's best, I think Utapon. I actually think Utapon is a better player in the sense that
I don't align with you on that, mate.
So I think Utapon's been significantly more flexible. because they've actually had because I don't think Sengoku
Hawks.
always.
I don't think Sengoku
played
give him
towards
the
bot side. You don't get to see this guy play weak side. And when he is, when it's been gone wrong, it's gone wrong.
I disagree because I think
his Zeri game, his
is the player that
Tristana
gets
game, the
more.
Caitlyn game they lost. It was off. It was like Honey getting put behind, and I don't think he's a great player from behind. Whereas I actually think Udapon is look, you can have it where Hop just leaves lane and never comes back, and they're playing around top side, and he'll be just fine and great. You can play 2 bot side, and you get the Jinx games you got from Honey, or the Zeri games you got from not Honey, Udapon, and he'll pop off. And that flexibility in play style to be able to go, I am strong side, I am hyper weak side being dived, I'm just 1v2 player. That flexibility in play style puts Udapon above Honey.
Sam, that's a flaw of Sengoku, not a flaw of Honey.
Sure, but then that's what I've seen from this guy. But and I still think when they have played to, and I still think when they haven't played to, he's not been as good. So I think Udapon's flexibility has been really, really valuable to me. And the fact he's been able to play everything from Jhin to Zeri to Jinx.
We're obviously splitting hairs here, obviously.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I think Honey's phenomenal. He's really good.
But I still think you're wrong.
But I valued the additional versatility as a factor.
I mean, that's where I just blame Paz, mate, to be honest with you. I just blame Paz for just playing
the
same.
But yeah, I can see that. But I mean, there's definitely worlds where you just basically play Ezreal and then basically play roaming support and just play through mid the entire
game. I don't think they can do that because if they're on blue side, that's the issue. Because if on blue side, they have to give Jet counter pick. They have to give Jet counter pick, or Sengoku just lose a game anyway.
Exactly, but that has
this team is basically CGA 2020 but on crack.
Yeah.
With the Gango analogy and everything, a hyper carry bot laner with a mid lane superstar kind of thing.
I mean, once is significantly better than the junglers they had, but I see.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's on crack. Because there are
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But Jet has to.
Honey's more stable than Gango. You're not gonna get Draven out of Honey.
I'm really surprised that Alex hasn't put NT on the top 3. I feel like.
Well, he put Fujimoto, so he kind of eliminated his support.
I think I want to hear what he's defending. There's got to be
the same thing with me missing out on Nap because I put Ray Farkey in there, but I feel like that's more justifiable.
I struggle with top lane a bit.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest. It's really the Ebby show in top lane.
Oh well, there's no way to have anybody else. Yeah.
It's really not, and I think honestly that's why we've all 4 of us came to the general consensus that it's just the same. It's all the same. That's it. At the end of the day, we could split hairs and we could twist it around, but ultimately, top 3 mid jungle top jungle mid rather. That's it. That's sorted. We all agree. ADC, we could flip it around a little bit, but general thought is it's either Secret or Heart probably as the support. It's probably Honey or Utapon as the AD carry. Maybe Soul is an outside bet.
Yeah, maybe people might not agree with that, but I think the biggest thing, maybe I would say in my list, if you wanted to, the biggest thing would be the Yaharong Utapon double ranking in tier 3. And I this is where what Sam said I think can come into play. It's not MVP vote, it's actually best player vote. And I think Steel has actually been potentially my MVP for the split, and I think that takes away from Yaharong and Utapon. I feel like he has been the jungler this league thus far. I think his early play has been so good. We've seen him sit on 2 champions and just be fine with it and the Poppy was extraordinarily good in the early of the split. As patches have changed now and we've seen Hecarim be the B1 pick, he has very comfortably settled into that instead. And
still a good Jin Zhao, still a
through
good Diana.
a little bit of Jin Zhao and Diana was also very, very good on those 2, but it is just kind of generally just 2 champions. And I think that's to his credit, not to his decline. This player has very comfortably sat on 2 champions and looked monstrous on them, and I think that's why I didn't really think that much of Yaharong, because it's Steel's done it again. Steel's found a ridiculous lead in the early.
Yeah,
Steel gets to mid game on the champion.
Summer before,
and the thing is, I see that argument, but I am pretty clear when it comes to things like all pro teams. This is not an MVP poll for me. If this is an MVP poll, Yaharong goes way down because I don't actually think he's been as valuable to the success of his team as other players on DFM. Don't get me wrong. it's been great to have him. It's a great additional bonus. And honestly, if Seal and Harp were performing more poorly, having Yaharong there and able to step up is wonderful. But they've not needed that because the other players have been smashing for them. I still think he's really good, and that's why I put him higher. It's just, but there is that distinction, that division there between MVP and like best player, which I think All Pro is. It's part of why. So when Al was doing his LEC All Pro votes, that he was pretty careful in how he did his voting on some of those because that wasn't MVP. That was
it's all
that was just best player rules, exactly, and that's a different. That is a different criteria. There's different criteria there for me.
In individual role is very different from overall best player. Full stop.
Yeah.
There is a wide distinction between the two. And gentlemen, an hour and 10, 15 minutes in, I think if we keep going, we're just going to be going in circles over and over again. So I think this is a perfect spot to end this podcast in general. Full stop. If you, ladies and gentlemen out there, want to ask us any podcast questions, this has been a bit of a all-over one because 4 games of the LJL happened. We want to do Elden Ring, apparently micro podcast within there. We also wanted to do our All Pros because that was kind of an important thing because it's the end of the split. And normally when we've done this in the past for Initialise and Nymera myself, we've had a week where we can get prepared and talk about it and actually sit down. We don't get that luxury with this one. It's like 4 days off, isn't it, Sam? And then we're back into playoffs.
It's time.
Oh, it's a lot, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lot. But I want to come over and just go, Sam. Actually, no, I'm going to go to Oak first. I'll
okay, fine. I see how it is.
No. I end with the best. Oak. How you doing, buddy? What are you going to be up to over this next week? Anything you want to plug and shout out?
Go follow my Twitter, please, at CasterOak. I want more followers. Other than that, no. I'm just I've got my playoff games tomorrow, and then I guess next weekend I'll be playing in RG again as well. So I'm hoping that goes well. It's my little thing on the side that I do. Other than that, it's just gonna be casting as much LJL as possible. Casting on Wednesday, so go catch me on then with Echo KO. Fantastic play-by-play. I'll be casting from 11 till 1. So go catch us there. Other than that, yeah, not much. Just go follow me on Twitter.
Go follow me on Twitter. Myself, geez, I don't know, LJL, and I really want to release a video, but every time I get into it, I get halfway through the material and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, no, I just need to release it like I do with my TikToks. I just do it. Is it
the same video you showed me?
Yeah, like 3 weeks to a month ago. Yeah.
Probably release that.
One day, maybe. One day, hopefully soon. Well, one day. League Esports still does suck, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't come and saved it and purified it quite yet, but maybe one day. Maybe one day this week. I don't know. I've probably got a day or two this week where I could do it. Other than that, I'm back onto RuneScape. So I mean, well, goodbye free time. Sam,
hello.
End us out. What have you got coming up this next week?
I am on NLC a few times, some playoff stuff coming up, which should be very exciting. So come tune in and see that. So I'll be on tomorrow on the desk, and I believe I'll be on next week as well with the finals coming on, which will be very exciting. So come tune in to that on Wednesday next week as well. Aside from that, gonna be doing as much damn content as I'll probably be in as many bloody TikToks as people like. I was in a TikTok with Shocks earlier in the week because she was just in the studio doing Valorant stuff. She was the Valorant studio is down the corridor from where we are, basically.
Oh, cool.
So she's just like, hey, we're doing TikTok. Like, sure, let's go. So like, it's just so like, yeah, I don't know. Follow my socials. I've got a link tree. Come, give me more followers.
You should.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Become a digital horticulturist and create a link tree.
I'm actually a physical horticulturist, so
are you really?
I actually need to do that more. My background was a load of plants, and I've only got a couple now. I need to
why
make
have you
my
got
background more
what's
green.
wrong with you? What kind of
It wasn't on purpose. I
are you?
changed my back. Lily was my partner. She was behind me, and then I've replaced it with a load of bookcases. And my plants don't really.
So you replaced your partner with a load of